a motor vehicle, to which I am not operating a motor vehicle. And this is what we are trying to
I guess. Uh,
circumvent.
yeah,
I am
and it's
operating
not
my
it's not
automobile,
circumventing.
not a motor vehicle.
I will ask you this: how is your right to travel removed by
by trying
receiving
to
the
require
citation?
by trying to require me to have a license to
Today's court hearing? Absolutely intense. We got a full-blown sovereign citizen who actually believes he doesn't need car insurance because he claims he wasn't driving. He says he was just traveling. Yeah, you heard that right. Instead of taking responsibility, he doubles down with the classic sovereign citizen playbook, arguing that the law doesn't apply to him. But the magistrate isn't backing down. Now here's where it gets interesting. The magistrate really takes his time with this guy. He explains. He clarifies. He gives him chances.
This is a civil infraction. If you were found responsible, all other things being equal, the court would assess $125 fines, costs, and fees. It is a 0-point ticket. And in the second case that ends with the letter B, that same date, time, and place, you were issued a citation for having an expired registration plate. That is also a civil infraction. It is also a 0-point civil infraction. If you were found responsible, all other things being equal, the court would assess $110 fines, costs, and fees. So first question, is that the ticket or the two cases that you thought you were appearing about, Mr. Williams?
it is.
Okay, and same question to you, Officer Kellums?
Yes, sir.
Very good. In every civil case, the plaintiff has the burden of proof, and in a case like this, that burden of proof is called by a preponderance of evidence.
Only question I have is, will the laws of the U.S. Supreme Court be applicable, and the federal statutes and definitions of motor vehicle and automobile be applicable in this proceeding?
They are the state of Michigan laws that will be applicable.
Okay. The other question is, are you already not bound by U.S. Supreme Court rulings?
Every court is bound by relevant Supreme Court rulings.
Okay. All right.
I'm not sure why you're asking that, but that's okay. All right, Officer Kellums, if you would begin, please.
So on November 19th, 2024, I was on patrol for the Battle Creek Police Department when I observed the vehicle that Mr. Roosevelt was driving. I observed that it had expired tags on the vehicle. I then conducted a traffic stop on Fountain Street near Meacham Ave. Found Mr. Williams to be driving the vehicle, where I issued him the citations. When speaking with Mr. Williams, he could not provide insurance, and his tags were expired.
All right. Did Mr. Williams say anything to you during the stop about having insurance or not having insurance, or anything about the tags on the plates, anything like that?
He informed me that he did not have to have insurance due to that he was traveling, and to drive a vehicle, you have to have insurance. Something regarding Supreme Court. That's about all he said.
Okay. All right. Do you want me to consider anything else at this point, Officer Kellums?
No, sir.
Okay, Mr. Williams, could you hear Officer Kellums' testimony?
Yes, I heard his testimony.
Very good. Thank you for your patience. What do I need to know, sir?
Okay, I did inform Officer Kelly that I am not operating a motor vehicle, but I am operating an automobile. I did inform Officer Kelly of the ruling of Rodriguez v. Ray Donovan, U.S. Department of Labor, 769 Federal 2nd, 1344, where the U.S. Supreme Court's decision has ruled that all codes, rules, and regulations are for government authorities only and not for human creators. In accordance with God laws, all codes, rules, and regulations are unconstitutional and lacking due process.
All right, I'm going to interrupt you just for a second. Are you telling me that a case at 769 Fed 2nd, 1344 indicates that all laws are unconstitutional?
So now this sovereign citizen tries to defend himself by bringing up Rodriguez versus Ray Donovan. And I've got to say, that case does absolutely nothing for him here. First of all, that ruling had to do with a completely different situation in a different state. It has nothing to do with Michigan traffic law. Nothing. Zero. Michigan law is very clear. If you're operating a motor vehicle, you are required to have insurance. You can't just say you're traveling and magically opt out of the law. That's not how it works. So honestly, I have no idea why he even brought this case up. Maybe he thought the magistrate wouldn't know the difference. Maybe he figured throwing out legal jargon would confuse the court.
All codes, rules, and regulations. Yes, sir. Rodriguez v. Ray Donovan. And if I'm not mistaken.
And he said that was Department of what?
U.S. Department of Labor.
Okay. U.S. Department of Labor doesn't publish decisions in the Fed second. Can you tell me a little bit more about the case? What was that issue in the case?
It was regarding what we're discussing here, the requirements of a driver's license and the need when it's required to have one, stating that when you're not operating in commerce, to which I informed the officer that I am not operating in commerce as stated in USC 18 USCA 31 paragraph A6 states that a motor vehicle, the term of motor vehicle meaning every description of carriage, contrivance, propelled or drawn or mechanical powered and used for commercial purposes. This is what Title 18 USCA Section 31A6 states or defines as a motor vehicle, to which I am not operating in commerce. I'm not using
for the purposes of that particular chapter of the United States Code. It would not control what happens in terms of the Michigan legislature defining in Chapter 257 what a motor vehicle is, and an automobile under Michigan law is a motor vehicle. But okay, continue.
It's a motor vehicle, which is described as anything, even by the Michigan compliance statute of 751, which you just stated, is determined as something that's transporting goods, which I'm not transporting goods.
I understand your position, and I can tell you that position doesn't happen to be legally correct. But go ahead.
So you're basically stating that there's a misinterpretation of what's in black and white?
This guy is really trying to test the magistrate. He's putting words in the mouth of the man who literally has the power to decide his future. Not exactly a genius move. Seriously, when you're standing in court, the last thing you want to do is try to outsmart the person who can hit you with fines or something much worse. And I honestly can't tell. Is he completely clueless like most sovereign citizens we see? Or does he actually think he's playing some kind of strategic game here? It's like he believes he's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. But here's the problem. He's not even on the same board. Watching him act like he has all the answers is almost unbelievable.
No, I'm telling you that you have misinterpreted the application of 18 USC 31A6 and 769 F second or Fed second 1344.
Okay, but, well, I see what
I've heard your argument.
So there will be no further arguments, because I see that you're not going to agree to, because like I said, when I've given it to you, the cases where they're like Shapiro v. Thompson, where the U.S. Supreme Court has said that a driver license is not a requirement, that you're trying to convert a right into a privilege, to which is covered by Article 1, Section 8.
I'll ask you this. Is that right, the right to travel?
That is a right to travel, convey, however you want it, by the U.S. Constitution.
What you just told me was that somehow but regardless, am trying to convert a right into a privilege. Now, the question I have for you is, what right has been converted to a privilege?
My right to freely travel unencumbered and now, unfettered.
I will ask you this. How is your right to travel removed by receiving the citation?
By trying to require me to have a license to operate a automobile, which is my private vehicle.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else you want me to consider?
No, sir.
All right. Well, I can tell you this. The Michigan motor vehicle laws, including the laws that require you to carry insurance, that require your vehicle to be registered, and require that registration to be current, do not run in violation of any right to travel under the Constitution or the United States Supreme Court decision that you have cited In fact, Michigan courts have held that essentially the right to travel means the right for you to move from A to B, not the right for you to travel from A to B under your most convenient way. So you could walk from point A to B all you wanted. You could take a taxi or an Uber or a plane or a train or a bus. But if you wish to travel by using a motor vehicle, the Michigan laws are applicable and don't unconstitutionally interfere with the right to travel. It doesn't convert the right to travel into a privilege. You are not denied the right to travel. You may be denied the privilege of traveling via a motor vehicle that you are operating.
I've got a feeling this magistrate hasn't dealt with this particular sovereign citizen before. Because, in my opinion, he's explaining way too much. It's almost like he's trying to convince this guy that the sky is blue. And for a second there, I'm not going to lie, it almost feels like the sovereign citizen is winning. Not because he's right, but because he's getting so much time to talk. Maybe it's just the way the magistrate keeps letting him go on and on. Now, don't get me wrong. I respect the magistrate for being patient. He's at least giving the guy a chance to speak. That's professionalism. But at the same time, how much of this nonsense needs to be entertained? At some point, it just turns into a waste of the court's time. And if you look at the officer...
That is what the law says, and that's what I'm finding. Is there anything else you want me to consider about that finding?
Shuttleworth v. Birmingham, U.S. 147. Do you mind telling me what the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in that?
U.S. 147 doesn't give me the site of a case. That's an incomplete site of a case. Okay.
It was Shuttle.
And if you wish me to consider the case, why don't you tell me what was at issue in the case and what year it was decided?
I said Shuttleworth v. Birmingham, U.S. 147, 1969, where it says
U.S. 147 is not a complete site. The way you cite to a case is by name and then volume number and then the name of the publication and then the page number. So, for instance, when you said 769 Fed 2nd 1344, what that means is volume 769 of a book or volumes called the Federal Reporter, 2nd edition, at page 1344. So when you're asking me about this most recent case that you've talked about, what you said was US 147, I think. That's not the citation to a case. So you're going to have to tell me more about that case. Who were the parties to that case, and what issue was before the Supreme Court in that case?
Okay, so you didn't hear me cite the name of Shuttleworth v. Birmingham?
I heard you say the name. That doesn't tell me what. That's not a complete cite of the case.
All right. Do you not have the documents that I filed when I filed to say that I want to have an informal hearing? The affidavit that writes that my
there are documents that have been scanned into the court that you dropped off.
Okay. So
from those documents, why don't you tell me the proper citation for Shuttle versus Birmingham?
Okay. Traffic infractions are not crimes, blah, blah, blah. Person faced with... Okay.
Right. Traffic infractions are not crimes. That's absolutely correct. They are civil infractions for a reason.
I was reading from a different case, but the case that I'm citing from states that no license necessary to drive an automobile on public highways, streets. No license is necessary. The word operator should not include any person who solely transport his own property and who transport no persons or property for hire.
Where's that citation from?
Okay, I just appeal it, and that way I can make sure all citations are.
That's fine. I mean, the idea is I can't look up what you're telling me, right, without a proper citation. So you can read. I mean, for all I know, and I don't mean this, I'm using a farcical example. For all I know, you're quoting the municipal court in Honolulu, Hawaii, which has no jurisdiction over Michigan.
It's understandable.
I don't know.
So
all right, at this point, the magistrate really needs to wrap this up. This sovereign citizen can't even quote the cases he wrote down in his little notebook correctly. He's flipping through pages, misreading citations. It's like watching someone give a book report on a book they never actually read. It's honestly painful. The whole thing starts to feel like a joke. And I genuinely don't know how the magistrate is staying this patient. Because right now, it feels like he's trying to explain basic law to a brick wall. I get it. That's part of the job. Judges and magistrates.
So I would cite Payne v. Massey, 196 Southwest 2nd, 493, Texas, 273.
Okay. Well, and I can tell you that Texas law, a court interpreting Texas law, that decision wouldn't be controlling on a Michigan court. But that's fine. I think I understand where you're going. If you want, I don't need to consider anything else. I'm just asking you, is there anything else
okay, well,
you want to present to me?
If you're not going to consider anything else, then we can proceed on to your ruling, of which I know you're going to find. So, and like you said, I have a right to appeal it. So
yeah, and I'm willing to listen. If you're going to quote something, I need to know what you're quoting, and I need a proper citation so I can look it up myself, right? Because otherwise people could just run around quoting Mickey Mouse if they wanted.
Is my automobile not my private, personal automobile that's not being used in commerce?
I would have no idea the use of your motor vehicle, and it's not relevant to me for the purposes of deciding whether you're responsible for these civil infractions.
Okay. Well, I have nothing else for you to consider.
Well, very good. I'm letting you know the law does not make a distinction between your using the vehicle for personal reasons or you're using the vehicle for commercial reasons when your registration plate is expired and when you fail to show proof of insurance. Both of those are required.
The MCL language.
Both of those are required under Michigan law for anyone operating any motor vehicle. That's what I can tell you. So
correct.
If you're
a motor vehicle, to which I am not operating a motor vehicle, and this is what we are trying to, circumvent.
Yeah,
I am operating my automobile, not a motor vehicle.
I can tell you that an automobile is considered a motor vehicle under the Michigan Motor Vehicle Code, so that's fine. Is there anything else you want me to consider?
Nope.
Very good. All right. So I've listened very carefully to the evidence. I do find that it's more likely than not that when you were required to by Officer Kellums at a traffic stop show proof that your vehicle was insured, that you failed to do so, and that it is more likely that the registration plates on the vehicle were expired. So I'm going to assess the $125 on the no proof of insurance case and the $110 on the expired plates case. All right. Thank you both for your time and patience. You're all set. Have a very good day.
Thank you, sir. You too.
You too.
I'm not going to lie. This sovereign citizen didn't come off like the usual ones we see. Most of the cases we cover, they're loud, rude, and completely out of control. But this guy was actually pretty calm, pretty patient. He even told the magistrate to have a good day. And if you've watched enough of these hearings, you know that's not something you normally hear from someone running the sovereign citizen script. Honestly, I get the feeling he just wanted to try it. Maybe he saw a few videos, read a few forums, thought he'd test the whole I'm traveling, not driving argument, and then realized pretty quickly it wasn't going to work. And once that clicked, he backed off. It almost felt like he understood that no matter how much he argued, the law was still going to land exactly where it always does. Now, as for the $235 in fines, expired tags, and no insurance, yeah, that's on you. Those laws exist for a reason. They're not there to bankrupt people. They're there to keep drivers accountable and protect everyone else on the road. Basic rules, basic responsibility. If you don't follow them, you pay the price. It's really that simple. So what do you think about this hearing overall? Did the magistrate handle it the right way? Should he have been more firm? Or was this actually a fair and balanced outcome? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read them all. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like and subscribe for more courtroom moments like this. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate your support. Take care.